Hello and welcome back to Insemination, the podcast that is all things donor conceived. My name is Laura High, your sperm donor baby of the podcast world. And my goodness, a lot has happened this week. And we're going to take a second to acknowledge it. Because how can we not? I was sitting here trying to figure out what episode do I publish in the midst of everything, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to publish a happy episode because we need a little bit of hope. And I do. I actually have a happy episode ready to go. It is of two donor-conceived brothers who are from two different family units, and their parents used a known donor from birth from a clinic in California. And they are here to tell everybody about their amazing experience and their incredible family. And it is so beautiful, and it is cute, and it is sweet, and it warms me up for so many reasons because, hey, happy families, like how does that not warm me up? But also they prove that everything we are trying to normalize, everything we are working towards, all of our advocacy is right on the money. It is on target. And that what we want to do is more than possible. It is like right there. And I'm just excited to share it with you all. But before we do, if you will indulge me for a second, I'd like to tell you a bit of a story as we are really hurtling towards this very, very scary future at a rate that feels like we're riding an avalanche. I would like to share a story of my grandfather. If you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you've seen it. If you do not, well, here you go. And if you've already heard it, well, pretend you haven't. So my grandfather is actually a Holocaust survivor. The one who raised me, my maternal grandfather, is. And I know you're thinking, but Laura, I thought you were Jewish from your donor side. And my mother's side, my family that I'm biologically linked to, that I was raised with, are Polish Catholic, and they were part of the Polish Underground, which was the Polish resistance. All my family volunteered for the resistance. They were a bunch of really, really amazing people. And my great-grandfather, he was the leader of the battalion Owaza for the Underground. My two great aunts, Danka and Olga, were nurses. My great uncle Renyo was a code breaker, and my other great uncle Gucho and my grandfather Myron were first in the Scouts and then became soldiers for the Underground. My grandfather volunteered when he was 10 years old, and at first he was a scout, and he was planting booby traps for the Nazis, delivering messages, terrorizing the Hitler Youth. And then when he was 12, he became a soldier and started tracking Nazis, when they were at their post, when they were walking, when they were doing their changing of the guard, stuff like that, stealing weapons. And when he was 14, we had the Warsaw Uprising, and we lost. And my grandfather was captured and as a political prisoner was imprisoned in Auschwitz and then in Mauthausen, and survived at age 14. He was there when he was in Mauthausen when they were liberated by the Americans. And, his story is just incredible top to bottom. Just all of the details he's still remembered and everything. We videotaped so much of it. He's actually in the Holocaust Museum in DC. He's featured somewhere in there. I have to go and see it. But when anybody ever came over and just listened to him and heard, his stories, he would always get this question. He would always get, how did you survive? And he always said the same thing every single time. He said, it would surprise you on what you are capable of doing when you are put in that position. And never, ever underestimate how strong you are. And I asked him once, I was like, why is that what you tell people? And he was like, I'm not built different. I'm not special. We're all the same. He's like, the strength I had, everyone has in them. It's not about me. It's about them. It's about empowering them and telling them that they can do it too because they can. And he genuinely believed that. Genuinely, with his full heart, fully believed in the strength of every single person. But not only that, even after everything he went through, he also believed in the goodness of people. When he was liberated from Madhouse and he was able to get back home to his home in Gdynia, Poland, and his mother was there and she was alive. And my grandfather was obviously pretty angry and upset and just fueled with rage, and he wanted to hurt people. Understandably. But his mom, being the incredible strong woman she was, looked him in the face and said, "Myron, if they have taught you to hate, then they won the war." And at that moment, he let it go and was like, "You know what, Mom? You are right." And he was able to forgive. And even at the end of his life, he would still always tell everyone what his mama Helena told him, because he was like, that was the most important lesson he ever learned. So as we are scared, as we have every single right to be, because my goodness, we are facing some very scary times, I urge people to lean into each other, to lean into community, because we are what we have. And to remember that you are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you think. Because if my grandfather says it's true, it is absolutely true. That man never lied in his life. And to remember, most importantly, we cannot lose our humanity. It is so easy to lose it in this kind of fear, but we must intensely love each other. And with that, I love you. I care about all of you. And I genuinely believe we are going to make it through somehow. We're going to do it. I believe in us. And now, I am very excited to introduce you to both Stan and Christian. Well, welcome to the podcast, Christian and Stan. How are you both doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, although poor Stan, I think, is up very late to do this podcast with us because of all the time zone issues. So thank you so much for that, Stan.
It's fine. Anything for you, Laura. It's two in the morning, but I'm
don't
pushing
tell me
through.
that. That's gonna go straight to my head. Well, thank you. I'm so excited that both of you can come on. I know that no one can see your faces right now, but if they could, you two do not look like half siblings. You look like full siblings. Your resemblance is like those donor genes hit hard. Do you guys feel like you look alike?
I see it. I do see it. I think it's kind of sort of the eyes and the eyebrows mainly. And that's sort of shared across our whole donor pod as well. It's not just Christian and I, but I think that it particularly stands out amongst the guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then when I'll look at pictures of our donor when he was younger, and I'll send pictures to him and I'll be like, wow, this looks exactly like Stanley. And then I'll find some that look exactly like myself.
Yeah, there's this one photo where I showed it to some of my mates over here in the UK and they thought it was a photo of me instead of
Oh my
of
goodness.
our dad. It's crazy.
And then even when we were up in the small town where we went to visit his family, we walked into that grocery store and the woman goes, "Oh my gosh, you look just like your dad." And she hadn't seen our dad in 30 years. She had never seen us before, but
Wow. Well, let's get right to it. You two have a very unique story in terms of the donor conception landscape, which I know has been like a conversation that I've had with you two, where it's been like, I've been trying to describe to you guys going like, your story is so unique for our community. And thank you all for coming on and being willing to talk about it so that I think we can all learn. So I would love to just sort of pass off and sort of just get the ball rolling, because I kind of want to just have a free flow and hear what you all have to say. But let's first start with, what was the clinic that you all came from
It was Rainbow Flag Health Services.
in California?
Yes.
And what years were you both born?
I was born in the year of our Lord 2000. Christian came a bit after me.
I was born in 2003. And then I'm the second youngest, I believe. And then Stanley, do you know where you fall in that?
I'm the second oldest out of the
Okay.
pod. Yeah.
And then my sister that I live with from the same donor is the oldest in the pod.
Whereas I'm an only child. Well, there's 11 of us in the pod, but I was raised an only child.
And this was a known donor clinic.
Yes. That was I was focused on gay men donating sperm to lesbian women. That was their target market.
Do you both are you both like queer spawn? Do you both are you both from lesbian moms?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
both queer spawn.
Yeah, queer spawn's a funny way to put it.
Is that not
Yeah.
like what phrase do you all prefer?
No, I love queer
I mean,
spawn. I've just
I'm
never
gonna
heard anyone say that
exclusively
before.
refer to myself as that from now on.
Yes, we are both queer spawn, and other than our donor's children that he raised himself, I believe that all of the other families are lesbian parents. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why did your parents decide to go with this clinic instead of a more, I would say, traditional sperm bank?
I mean, I've spoken to Christian's parents, so I know that they share the same sentiment as my own parents, and it was really important to my parents to have a known donor relationship. I think at that point in time, the sort of queer agenda that came with the Rainbow Clinic, though it was great, and I think it really worked for us, it wasn't specifically what they set out looking for. What they set out looking for was a known donor relationship. And it just so happened that this amazing institution was in place out in San Francisco that happened to cater to lesbian parents specifically, which was kind of just perfect, really. That was, I think, when they started that process, would have been 1998. And that was around the same time that Christian's older sister, his parents would have been going through the same process with Christian's older sister, who is the oldest member of our pod. And in those days it was really old fashioned. I mean, you forget how much obviously all of the big sperm and everything, it's all done online now through these websites, which one could argue is like a part of how it can be so damaging, is because these websites are so anonymizing and it's just a click away.
It's kind of like almost Amazon for sperm.
Exactly. It's like fast fashion for sperm. Whereas in those days it was like, I mean, my parents said it was all like done by mail communication and like maybe some faxes, and it was very like slow, and the communication was very analog.
And then, Christian, could you tell the story about like why your moms made this decision as well?
Yeah, I know my biological mom was pretty dead set on having a known donor, and so on their dial-up internet, she was searching over and over and over again, known donor sperm clinic, known sperm donor, all of those keywords, and then one day she found Rainbow Flag Health Services online, and then I guess started a correspondence with them and began looking for donors in their registry.
Amazing. I mean, I have to ask, like, were your moms concerned? Because we taught, and understandably, like, there are so many queer lesbian moms who are nervous about using a known donor for understandable reasons. And this is like, your mom did this in the early 2000s, late 90s. Like, were they concerned for legal reasons about using a known donor?
I don't think that was really a concern of theirs. They just really thought that it would be beneficial for us to know who our biological father was and possibly had a relationship with them.
Yeah, I mean, there was like I can't speak for Christian, but I know there was some issue with me. My parents had to go through a court procedure to make sure that there could be 2 women on my birth certificate or registered as my parents. And I know that that was like the only vague anxiety, but it worked out fine, and they're both registered as my parents now. But I don't think it was a huge issue.
Yeah, I
What?
think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I had my biological mother is on my birth certificate, and then I had a second parent adoption done by my other mom. I think I was probably 17, right before I turned 18, the last chance they could do it.
When did you both find out that you were donor conceived, or was this something that like you just always knew?
I can't remember a time when I didn't know. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
same, like day one.
Mhm.
Like, it was always just like a fact. Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good way to go about it, because then there's no realization when you're 14, 15. Oh, wait, really? I didn't know this about myself. No, when it's presented to you when you're 4 or 5 years old, you kind of grow up knowing that fact. So it's really normalized to you. So you're never shocked by it.
When did you either of you develop questions about the donor? When did the idea of meeting the donor kind of come into play? Was this ever something that you either of you were curious about, or was it something you just like didn't really think or care about?
I think like that story is really where Christian and I are like very different. I know Christian built a relationship with our father a lot earlier than I did. So I know, Christian, if you wanna answer that first.
Yeah, so we always had a few pictures of him, so I knew what he'd looked like. I knew his name, I knew where he lived. I knew like what he did for a living. I knew a few other hobbies he had and other general information, and that sufficed for 10-year-old me. That was enough. I knew how tall he was and what he looked like, and I was set. That's all I needed to know.
And then when did that shift and change for you, or when did he come into the picture?
Yeah, so when I was 11 years old, he had a layover in an airport that was pretty close to where I live. So my mom's and my sister and I went to the airport on his layover, and we hung out with him and his 2 kids, which are part of our 11 siblings, and just got to meet for the first time and hung out for a few hours, had lunch, and just got to know each other. And there was like an instant connection. We all got along really well. And then I think about a year later, we made plans to meet up again on a vacation. And then we did that. And then it became sort of a regular thing. Maybe once a year, we would see each other.
That's awesome. And how for you, Stan, was your journey different?
Yeah, so like my journey didn't really contain any of the same interests that I suppose Christian expressed earlier on. And that wasn't really coming from a place of ignorance or denial. It was, I can say, like real genuinely, I never even thought about it. I
Our
think that,
community isn't a monolith. There are plenty of people who feel that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's legit. It's every donor conceived person is allowed to feel however they feel.
yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you saying that as well, because sometimes I do feel slightly selfish saying that, because I know that there are loads of people in the community who um would sort of really appreciate being in my position of having a known donor, and like maybe I'm not fully like reaping the benefits of having that known donor relationship.
No, the benefit is you had a choice. And
Yeah.
that's the whole point, is that you got to, and your choice and your feelings were acknowledged. That's the whole point. It's not about forcing or choosing you have to have a relationship with the donor. It's about making space for whatever the donor conceived person feels. And that's how you feel. And that's great. So no, you shouldn't feel bad or anything. The fact that you actively were able to go, this is what I want. And that was cool.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think the one once there start like something like a obligation to fulfill that like relationship comes about, that's when it becomes like even more toxic as an industry, and then it's all needs to be centered on the, you know, the child's choice.
Yeah.
But I what was I saying? So I wasn't really curious, and then basically I get a Christian finds a card that was my mom's would send our father like every year just like an update on what I was doing, like what I was doing at school, like life updates, really chill, nothing crazy. And Christian gets his hands on one of these cards. Like our dad is just like showing the cards around, and Christian sees one of the cards and it has, I think it was like my full name on the card or something. Was that right?
Your
What was it,
your
Christian?
surname, you said?
Yeah, my surname. And Christian finds me on Instagram. By this point, I'm like, I think I've just turned 18. And he messages me, he goes, "Is your name Stanley?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Is this your surname?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm Christian. I'm your half brother." And that was the first connection I'd say it's like it was a DM for the books, I'd say. It was the first like connection I'd ever had with anyone really properly from the from like the donor pod, from the family. And um about had Christian and his sister and then two of the other siblings on Instagram for ages, and then by virtue of that I sort of saw a lot of our dad on Instagram, contacted him. He actually, Christian, do you know this? He actually contacted me on LinkedIn first.
Yeah, he
He
told
added me on
I asked him.
LinkedIn.
I said, "Oh, have you been talking to Stanley? I've been DMing with him." He goes, "Oh, we have a correspondence on LinkedIn." I was like, "All right, interesting."
It was really funny because it was in
So
the middle of me
official.
applying. Yeah, it was so official. It was in the middle of me applying to all these jobs, and I would find myself, phrasing messages to my dad in the same way that I would phrase messages to like an HR recruiter. But one thing led to another, and a year later, I'd already lived in America a bit just by coincidence. I'd lived there for a bit in San Francisco, which is the city they were based in at the time, and it was not too unfamiliar to me because I'd already lived there. So I decided to fly out and meet them and hang out with them. And yeah, same as Christian said, it just felt very natural. It's like a really, really cool vibe that they have going that's very welcoming.
Lovely.
Yeah. hmm
Did you know that on that trip that I was out I didn't know I was getting to meet you until I arrived at the airport?
No, I swear you did.
No, I got in the car. I got picked up by our dad from the airport, and he goes, "Oh, did Stanley tell you he was coming in?" And I said, "No." And then he said you were coming in the next 2 days, so you just happened to be there the
Oh,
same exact week.
oh yeah, I did know that actually. Yeah, that's so funny.
So I
Yeah,
had no idea I was getting to meet you.
but I think that is like that's more than just an anecdote, a funny anecdote. I think that is kind of testament to there's something very relaxed, and I mean, I hesitate to use the word unsentimental because it is still very important, but it's not necessarily like dramatic to the like connection we have to one another and to meeting each other for the first time. And I think that's like the secret to why we have such a good thing going on. um none of us like perhaps expects any time meeting another one to be a like life-changing event, and if it is, it is, and if it isn't, it isn't. And I think if that makes sense, that's why it works.
Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please tell me if I'm interpreting this incorrectly, but it feels like all of the pressure of the entire situation, all of the air was taken out because everything was on the table.
hmm
And so it really seems like because there wasn't like this large buildup, there wasn't any secrets. Like from the very beginning, you all had access to this information that there didn't seem to be this giant big moment because it was all there.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like I can see from the other side, had I not known Christian virtually for like 4 years, had I not seen all these photos of my father, that would have been really, really fucking scary. Sorry, I'm allowed to swear. That would be
You're
really,
allowed to
really
swear, I promise.
okay. That would be really like fucking scary. Um, and yeah, that like really benefited from knowing each other beforehand.
Now, I'm hearing both of you refer to the sperm donor as dad. Do you refer to him as dad, or is there how what is what how do you refer to him?
Uh, Normally I call him Daddy, but on the podcast I'll just say Dad.
Daddy is sweet. We can call him Daddy. That is adorable. Oh God. I mean, my stand-up brain goes into a few different directions. I do have jokes that use daddy
No,
in different
it,
contexts. So
it
I'm just
actually
like,
is a
maybe
joke.
I shouldn't. But how I have how now have you always referred to him as dad? How I gotta ask, how do your moms feel about that? Because I know a lot of recipient parents would not feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. Um, there's actually a funny story that our dad really likes to tell. So on the first day I'd ever met him, we met him at the airport on his layover, and we had left to go to a cafe, and my mom had to run to the car to grab something, maybe her wallet, and I turned to go walk with my mom to the car. My dad's walking the opposite direction, and she goes, "Oh no, it's fine. I'll be quick. Go with your dad." And like my dad kind of turns around like, "Who's dad? Like that's how you're referring to me already?" He was fine with it, but he was just kind of shocked by it. But that just kind of goes to show like how open my mom was with the situation, and kind of why she sought out a known donor was that I could have a relationship with them. But
This is like unheard of. I'm so fascinated by that. Yeah, I want to meet your moms so much.
I'm
They're
sure.
really
I
cool.
honestly I haven't heard her perspective of that, but I know that our dad loves to tell that story to everybody. I don't know what my mom's thinking was behind it exactly, but I'm sure she'd love to come on the podcast. And I was talking with our dad earlier today, and he was asking if he could listen in live, and I'm sure she'd love to have you guys on a guest sometime, is what I told him.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, this is like, because the idea that your mom called the sperm donor, yeah, go with your dad is like, again, I've never, the idea of you referring to the sperm donor as dad is literally the majority of a recipient parents' like nightmare. So the fact that your mom just like casually did that immediately is like that, like I can't, it's so fascinating to me.
Like from like having met your mom, Christian, like from the brief encounter I've had with her, she seems to really, really value yours and your sister's relationship to the pod and to our dad. She's really invested in it, and it's something that she will always want to like nurture.
Where do you think for both of you this came from with your moms as to valuing this relationship? Because again, this is something that a lot of recipient parents, it really, and I want to say understandably, it's not something that like I don't understand why, it understandably really scares a lot of recipient parents. What do you think? Where do you think this want for both of your moms came from that they have been so supportive?
I think both our parents felt comfortable doing it because, like, honestly, if I can say this, they were just good parents. And that's not to say parents who aren't comfortable with it are bad parents. It's just my parents felt like their connection with me was strong enough, and they were like brave enough people to allow me to go my own way, because I fear that had I not explored this relationship further down the line, it would have deteriorated my relationship with my lesbian parents here in London, because there would have always been that like unscratched itch or that tension, and I think it was the bravery and the confidence that came for them to allow me to go was like one of the best decisions they've ever made.
I mean, your moms are I would have to agree that the bravery and the confidence that both of your parents have is like tremendous. Um, it is, especially at that time. Like I commend, like please tell your moms that I think that they are the most badasses.
Do you need help finding your biological parents? Whether you're donor conceived, adopted, or an NPE, please contact DNA Angels. DNA Angels is a nonprofit team of genetic genealogists that help you identify your biological parents. And this group is run by donor conceived people, adoptees, and NPEs, so they will emotionally have your back during this process. DNA Angels has identified almost 5,000 biological parents since 2019 using test results from Ancestry DNA. And they are a nonprofit because they believe that your financial situation should not stop you from identifying your family. If you are searching to identify and possibly connect with your biological donor or missing parent, please reach out to dnangels.org. Must be at least 14 to apply, have tested at Ancestry, and presumed parents born in the United States of America.
Possible. How has it been developing relationships with other siblings in your pod?
Do you want to have a go at this, Stanley, or?
Well, there's like, I would just like to preface this by saying that we I think there are like 4 that we've are completely separate. They don't necessarily want contact. They could have contact if they wanted, but they don't want it. Like, we know who they are. And but there's not like we never like hung out with them, like we never like gone for a drink with them, whatever.
Legit.
But and that's completely fine, like respect that, that's cool.
Yeah.
But the ones that we do know, I mean, actually, Christian, do you want to say this, because you've actually met more than I have?
Yeah, so there's 3 that we've gotten into contact with, and they told us, could you please respect our privacy and let the other siblings know that we don't wish to be contacted. And then I think your initial question was about how it is forming relationships with your siblings.
Just like what it's been like for you all.
Yeah, so I think I had a big realization when we actually watched the movie together. Is it The Man with 1,000 Kids? That's the Dutch sperm donor.
Yeah.
They talk about a phenomenon called Luke and Leia syndrome, where children with the same donors who didn't know they had the same moms because he was donating to so many people had these like great relationships when they'd meet on the playground, even though they were raised in separate households. And I'm kind of realizing, like, we do get along very well very quickly. Like, I met our donor's 2 kids when I was 11, and we hit it off, and we'd hang out once a year, twice a year. And then I feel like when I met Stanley, the first day was kind of proper. We were kind of maybe tiptoeing around a little bit. And then by the second or third day, we realized we're very, very similar, especially from like a sense of humor perspective. We could kind of joke around in all the same ways with each other. So I think it's quite easy to form the relationships for me so far in meeting 4 or 5 siblings, I think.
Christian's Leia and I'm Luke.
Both fantastic characters. You can't go wrong. Has it surprised both of you on like how similar you are to your siblings, even though you were not raised in the same house?
Oh, like, don't get me wrong, I think there are a few who like I'm very dissimilar. I think I'm really, actually, despite sharing the same sense of humor and like getting on, I think I'm actually really dissimilar to Christian. Like, we're very different,
absolutely.
like very different people. And then also, you know, like our father's son that he like raised in his household, like he's, I think, at least on paper, like a lot more similar to Christian than I am. But that, like, it makes you realize how diverse like the paths that nurture can lead you down are. Like, we have, you can cut this out if this is like too much information, but we have like people in the US Navy, and then we have like, you know, academics, and then we have like medics, but then we have like personal trainers. There's all sorts of different professions. And that doesn't mean that we're like not getting on. We get on really, really well, but like on paper, we're very different people.
I mean, I think that if you want to study nature versus nurture, donor conceived people are absolutely like, we are the ultimate test subjects for that.
Yeah.
Do either of you did you see similar similarities that surprised you with your dad, or are you also like not really similar to him as well?
Well, I'm gay and he's gay.
That's also why he's his favorite son.
Love it.
No. Well, maybe. You never know. I don't know. There's a lot of similarities. The eyebrows, in terms of personality, I think,
I mean, you two have the same eyebrows.
yeah. Yeah, it's the eyebrows.
Do you have the same eyebrow regimen?
What's an eyebrow regimen?
I mean,
How often do you shampoo your eyebrows, Stanley? You go
Oh,
first.
I thought you said like a regiment. Like there was like a regiment of people who had the same eyebrows instead of like a regimen.
oh yeah,
Um,
no, sorry, regimen. Yes, no, my yes. Like, are you
oh yeah.
exfoliating, plucking in the same way?
You remind me though, like they're growing steadily and steadily together. Sorry, I can't speak it so late. But yeah, no, I don't have an eyebrow regimen. Do you, Christian?
No, I don't. I'm surprised you don't, considering your lifestyle. Some manscaping.
What is the age difference in the pods? Like, how old is the eldest and how young is the youngest?
So the eldest is about to turn 24 very soon,
Mhm.
and I think the youngest is 20.
Amazing. And I guess I'd love to. I mean, I know that there's a lot of recipient parents right now who are actively choosing known donors, and want to go down that path. What would you suggest to those parents, in terms of handling that dynamic and raising a donor conceived person with a known donor? What advice do you have to all those recipient parents?
Um, I would say it's a great idea. Obviously, I'm kind of biased. I've had nothing but amazing experience come of it, from meeting my donor to meeting my siblings to, meeting people like you who work in the industry. I would say, absolutely go for it, and just inform your kids from a young age that they are donor conceived. Be ready to answer any questions they might have, and yeah, I've had a great experience. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Is there
Yeah.
anything in particular that you would suggest in terms of handling the relationship your between your dad and you that you would suggest to recipient parents to keep in mind? Because I think a lot of the recipient parents are just like how to handle it in a healthy way. Is there anything like, I guess, tangible that maybe like your mom's said to you or did that like particularly helped things click in a really good way?
My mom's always said there's a very, very kind man who and I maintain that he's a very kind man, but even before I met him, they were like, there's a very, very kind man in San Francisco who, like before I even knew what sperm was, like helped make you. And I think that language of saying there's a very, very kind man sets a precedent of like no resentment, no tension.
Mhm.
This is a caring relationship that really, really like benefited us, and it's something we're very grateful for. And there is no taboo here. There's no nastiness. And I think that using that language around your child is really, really helpful. I would also just say, like, in answer to your previous question, which is like more related to just raising the child in general, knowing that there's a donor, is or like approaching using sperm donation or using a sperm bank. It doesn't have to be as politically charged or as like um I'm searching for the right word here. Like
Take your time.
it it doesn't have to be as I really want to say deep, but like of course it's deep because you're having a kid. But it doesn't using a sperm bank is not as like scary and serious and political as a lot of the discourse often makes it out to be. Like, yes, there are these deep-seated issues which are related to you know, politics and capitalism and everything. But at the end of the day, it's like there are options out there which mean it can be a simple, caring, beautiful process. And if you're approaching it with the mind that you're going to try and avoid, where possible, anything that could make political or social tension down the line, that is ultimately the right way to approach it. I phrased that really badly, but I'm trying to make the point that it doesn't have to be as deep as a lot of the discourse makes it out to be.
If I'm hearing you correctly, and again, please tell me if I'm wrong, is that it doesn't have to be scary.
It doesn't have to be scary. It
doesn't-
it doesn't have to open up a labyrinth of issues. It's something that you can do.
Would you
And
define as like saying like, because and again, please tell me if I'm misinterpreting you. What I got from it was it doesn't have to be scary as long as you are going into it with the right intentions, which, if you don't mind me putting this phrase to it, please tell me if I'm wrong, if it is child-centered.
if it's and like you always say child-centered, and that's something I really agree with, and like a lot of these activists in this space always say child-centered, and it's 100% child-centered. And I think a lot of people approach it with this sort of internal anxiety that it's really, really hard to make it child-centered. And yeah, there are forces working against you, but it's entirely possible to make the decisions to make it child-centered. And that maybe an answer is like really, really take the time to make sure that you're choosing the right donor and you're choosing the right bank, so that it can be child-centered.
I would agree. I think that, I mean, I obviously don't really know. I'm not gonna, claim it all to be a knowledgeable in terms of like the UK's political climate in the least bit. I mean, I do know in the US we are facing right now, our political climate is a little tense right now.
Right now, right this very minute,
Right
in the debate.
it's a little
Yeah.
tense. But I do think that collectively you can make donor conception child-centered a lot more, as I think it's a lot easier than people make it out to be. And again, I think the more and more we normalize it as a society, it's going to become more and more easy. It's just kind of a shift in a mindset, literally. And I think that a lot of parents are starting to catch up to what your moms and the Rainbow Bridge Clinic, what was it? Rainbow Flag? What was it called?
Yeah, Rainbow Flag Health Services, I'm pretty
Rainbow
sure.
Flag Health Services was doing, because the Leland, the owner, certainly was, we're definitely picking up what he put down all those years ago. What was the clinic's cap on how many kids can be made from one donor?
So it wasn't necessarily a kid cap. I think it was
It was a family limit.
4 families, and 4 families could have 1 kid, and then for each subsequent kid to each family, the other recipients had to be contacted and give the okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess through Rainbow Flagship, he donated for 9 kids, and then he had 2 kids of his own.
Do you all like just refer to each other like flat out as like brother, sister, sibling, or do you have like a different name for your pod? Because like obviously like everyone has like different languages and words. I'm just curious what you guys use.
Yeah, we just say like brother and sister.
Yeah,
I think
what I'm
that's
talking
pure.
about.
It's pure convenient. It's like pure convenience. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Right,
obviously
yeah.
Luke and Leia now is seems
Luke and
like it.
Leia. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also
Sperm
kind of,
1, 2, 3, and 4.
We just all give you numbered shirts.
I think that the dad thing is also out of convenience as well. I mean, I wouldn't want to, when you're talking about this, I talk about this topic quite often, especially recently. But it'd be kind of strenuous to just keep saying my biological father or my sperm donor. But
like,
also,
yeah, like my sperm donor, like no one, if you're just having a casual conversation where I'm talking about, my dad buying a new house, I don't like, people don't want me to start talking about sperm. Like, I
Yeah.
just say like my
And
dad.
it is how comfortable we are with him as well. It's not just
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
convenience of it.
I wouldn't be comfortable calling my biological father, my dad, I mean, I've never met the guy. He's made it very, very clear that he's like absolutely not, no contact. So like, I know that I wouldn't be comfortable with that. But it's just, but still, even it's even for donor conceived people who do have a relationship with the donor, calling the donor dad, mom is unique. It's not something I hear a lot. And the fact that your recipient parents are comfortable and yours, Christian, literally said your dad is, I have personally never heard that. Not saying that other people don't. It's just I have never heard that.
When we are with him, we do address him by his first name, though. And then every once in a while, just to make him uncomfortable, catch him off guard, I'll call him daddy.
As you should. Absolutely. How has it been? Like, you guys just watched Man with 1,000 Kids, and you're now kind of like learning a little bit more about how donor conception works. I would say more like traditionally in the industry. How has that been like kind of learning what the majority of the community kind of goes through and how unique your experience was?
It's like, it sucks. It's not nice.
Yeah, I found that movie pretty disgusting, and I didn't sit through the whole thing because I think near the end, maybe the third part of it, I just got really uncomfortable and gross what he was doing and his motives for doing it.
Yeah, no, they're serial donors are very gross. These are very gross bottom of the barrel dudes. Like they ain't cute. Unfortunately, Stan, in the UK, a lot of them are in the UK. So we're gonna pass this one off to you. If you can maybe do something about it, that would be great. You're in the house of a lot of unfortunately infamous serial donors.
Yeah, I figured. I mean, but then isn't that like kind of contradictory to the actual rules they have in place for donor conception here? Isn't it like a lot more regulated in the UK compared to the US?
It is. It's significantly. It's much better. I mean, I would say that there are UK donor conceived people made from the more traditional industry who still have, like, I would say, notes on how to improve and continue to improve, which is great. We love, being progressive, and we love moving the ball forward. But the serial donors in general have been exploding worldwide. And for some reason, right now in UK, it's definitely been hitting pretty hard.
Do something about it, Stanley.
I'll go find them.
Get out there.
You gotta get out. We need boots on the ground, dude. We need some help canvassing and figuring out what the hell the caves that these guys come from. Oh my God. But yeah, because when we started talking and started telling you all like the stuff that I advocate for, you all seemed to be quite surprised that it needed to be advocated for.
Yeah, I think it really did catch me off guard because I didn't know how unique of an experience this was. And actually, I just remembered something. I don't know if I've told you this, but the first other donor conceived person I met was in 7th grade in my Algebra 2 class. There was a girl who had been donor conceived. I think she had lesbian moms, and she had 17 siblings. And that summer after school ended, she was going to go meet with all 17 of her siblings and their donor. So I was like, this sucks. I've only met 3 of my siblings. She's getting to meet all of them at the same time? What am I doing wrong?
Oh, so you thought that you were on the low end of the stick there. You were like, God damn.
Yeah.
Oh,
I also just want to say, like, I don't know if it was the same for Christian, but for me, the real battle, if you like, when I was growing up was not with me being donor conceived, it was with having 2 moms. Like the conversations I was having in the playground, trying to assess where I stood in the big like birds and bees story, weren't related necessarily to the fact that, my sperm was put in a FedEx container and flown across the world and then artificially inseminated. They weren't that far along. It was more, why do I have a mom and not a mom and a dad? So there's something to be said for donor conceived children who have gay or lesbian parents.
Yeah.
Where like there's sort of 2 challenges there, and I think often the sexuality of their parents comes before the idea of doing a conception and like the way you realize things.
I think that makes complete sense.
Mhm.
I mean, that would be I am not my parents are het cis, so for me obviously that isn't my experience, but it would make sense that that is a little bit more, I would say, front and center and more high stakes.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Like, so you were teased a lot for having two moms.
Like I wasn't teased a lot, but there are some funny anecdotes. Yeah, knocked a 7-year-old's kid out, knocked a 7-year-old's teeth out. Um, I was
Do
also
tell
7.
that story.
I was also 7.
I want to hear the story. Like what caused you to knock a kid's teeth
Um,
out?
No, this was 3 months ago when we were when we
yeah,
went on our road trip.
I was also 7. Yeah, yeah, it was just it was, but again, as I say, this was related to like having two moms. It wasn't necessarily related to
Yeah,
donor conception.
that makes sense.
And he was like, that's impossible, you can't have two moms, because obviously and arguably like correctly had been told at home that you need an egg and a sperm to create a baby, and
Yeah,
just
he
didn't
was right. He
compute.
was just speaking from a biological perspective, and you punched him in the face.
I punched him in the face, but then the story is that
You were just like, this is a nuanced subject.
yes.
Boom.
Exactly. And then but the story is that my grade school teacher didn't punish me at all and just like let me run free, even though his teeth were all over the playground floor. So
Can we send that teacher a gift basket? Because that was the right response on her part. Like, well done, teacher. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for being an ally.
I think the only time it was really like ever a topic of conversation was on Mother's Day. The other kids would say, "Hey, why does Christian get 2 cards and I only get 1?"
Yeah. On Father's Day though, I've got to stop worrying about that now. I've built a relationship with him. I have to like, I now have 2 Mother's Day cards to send and a Father's Day card to
So
send.
that's the downside of having a known donor is now you're
Yeah.
like, God damn it. Oh, now I gotta worry about this shit now.
And you've also got potentially 11 others to compete with.
Oh
So
shit. Yeah. Who's gonna have the I mean, now I do feel though that you two particularly have, I mean, jokes galore, because I don't think you have to do a traditional Father's Day card for this. I mean, the jokes are there with him being a sperm donor. Like, you can have some fun.
Stanley, was it you or was it our other brother and sister that I had to text to remind them that it was Father's Day?
no, that wasn't me. That was the other one.
I will say they do make sperm glitter.
What's sperm glitter?
Like glitter that is in the shape of sperm, and you could like put it in a card and he opens it and it's sperm glitter.
Okay.
I don't, my
Okay,
God, that's what my God, that's okay. My God.
I thought you were going a
godmother
completely
does the
different
glitter.
direction with that.
Yeah.
What was the direction you were thinking?
Something that is not FDA approved, that you wouldn't be able to sell in a retail setting.
I guess the thing is, like, my godmom, that's what she does. She always puts like a ton of glitter in a card, and then I go, ah, shit, I gotta vacuum again. But
Yeah. Well, talking of godmothers, we've also got a fairy godmother. Our dad's partner, he's great. And he's almost like, I like, it's not really a paternal relationship with him at all, but he's like great, and like
He's a great stepdad.
he's a great stepmom. Yeah, he's a fairy godmother. He's
yeah,
great.
what is that
We love him.
relationship like with you all?
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually known our dad since before he started dating him. He actually had a different boyfriend when I met him for the first time, but this guy, he is since married, and yeah, I refer to him as my stepdad.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that one's still
gosh.
up for debate.
How did the stepdad kind of like react to this like fun family dynamic? Like, was he like all on board and was like, yes, I am here for this? How much was?
Absolutely, he's a great time. I think he fits right in. I don't think he batted an eye at it at any point.
Yeah, he's the best. He's so cool.
That's amazing.
But actually, I don't know if like this is too much information, but they're actually having like the ceremony for their nuptials in April, and Christian, myself, and another brother have been kindly asked to be the groomsmen,
Oh,
which
I
is
think he said
good.
you were going to get to be his best man because you were his favorite son for certain reasons.
Well,
I'm not the maid of
happy
honor.
congratulations to daddy sperm donor and daddy sperm donor's stepdad. Congratulations. This is amazing. Oh my God. Oh, I know all the donor conceived people listening to this are going to just be kind of like shocked and amazed by this, because it really is kind of mind blowing. We are kind of coming down to the end of the episode. Before we go, I just kind of want to throw it out there and just ask, like, is there anything that I haven't asked that you feel like is really important to share, that you really want to get out there, whether it is for intended donors, intended recipient parents, or just things that you think that it's important for people to know?
I mean, is it all right if I talk about how I actually came to meet you?
Yeah, sure. Heck yeah.
Oh yeah, so I was reached out to by Danielle from Seed Scout. I had followed their page and she had messaged me and they were looking for donors. And I had a phone call with her and she was describing all of their practices and I was like, okay, yeah, that seems pretty standard, which is what I now know is a very nuanced practice of what they're
Very
trying to do.
unique. Yeah.
But it just sounded to me like they were trying to emulate the sperm bank that my parents had used.
And then, well, I know that you are a little too young at the moment to be a Seed Scout donor, but I remember Danielle was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like incredible." And I remember her like literally texting me. She was like, "Laura, you have to talk to this guy. You have to talk to him." And I'm like, and literally, you both are the best. What would be the best word? Not evidence, but I don't know, cookie cutter of what we are looking forward to with like the Seed Scout donor conceived kids. I'm not exactly like, you are the closest thing we have to showing like what they are doing in adult
The
form.
rubric for it.
Yes, that's what y'all are. And
Yeah,
then,
I mean, yeah, like I think we're proof that that sort of thing further down the line will work out at least. At least
yeah,
if you want if you want them to turn out like us, then yeah.
y'all are pretty cool, I gotta say. I mean,
I think
y'all are neat, and you seem to be fairly happy, which is, we love that for our donor conceived community and family. We love to see our fellow DCP happy. Like, that's really cool.
I think all of our siblings have turned out to be very successful considering the circumstances, or maybe because of the circumstances. You know, we have one of our sisters that's getting her master's right now, another is getting her PhD, another is in med school. I think two are in law school, and then one is in a branch of the military right now and just finished a training program.
And another two are on a very successful podcast.
Hmm.
It's all going well.
It's all going well. I mean, I will say, I think that all of your siblings have parents who actively made a very intentional choice to center their kids' welfare. So I will say that everyone in your pod certainly seeming like they had very caring parents. So we can certainly, I would say, feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah, they're all right. No, I'm joking. Love them. They're great.
They're fine. They're okay.
Nah, they're great. They're great. You're 100% right. I think it's like all come from this place of stability and this place of, yeah, like of like child-centered decision making. And that's really like bled into how we've turned out and how we've like flourished into adults. But I do want to say, like you mentioned, if there was anything final that we wanted to say, I do just want to also say that the last thing I would ever want to be would be like the blueprint or like what people are expecting of their own pods. Like every pod is completely different, and
Yes.
what we have will not work for everyone. And you need to sort of like stop holding yourself to like expectations that are set by other pods, if that makes sense.
We
Because
shouldn't call
it's just,
you the elite pod. We shouldn't give you that kind of like sort of star
well,
rating.
not even like you shouldn't like give anything any hierarchy. It should just be happen organically and be what you want, like be what you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the minute you start setting standards, then you're just setting yourself another obstacle, you
Mhm.
know?
Well, I think what we are looking at with you all is we're seeing what is possible. And again, what we talked about, especially like with you, Stan, as going, this was your choice. And what your donor conception meant to you is your choice. And that was what you were given. And that's what we want for all donor conceived people is your choice. And within this choice, you have certain people in your pod who are like, nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna be part of this. That's cool. And that's legit. That's their choice. You all were like, nah, let's make something. This is kind of cool. Let's kind of like, let's yes and this. And that's great that you had that. And it's just really wonderful to see that look what can come out of having a choice and full transparency.
And if you're unlucky, you get us.
I think our dad, I don't know if it would have been possible without like him having his experience, but he was like oddly prepared to like put you in a position to kind of foster a relationship with him. Like he would reciprocate any like attention you wanted to give him, and if you wanted to create a relationship with him, he would um let you do so. But if you didn't want to be contacted or anything else, he wouldn't pressure you in anything. But
Amazing.
whatever you were comfortable with doing, he would be accepting of it and go forth with having a relationship with you. Is what I've felt.
Yeah, I mean, he has like a background in psychology, so he's very prepared to deal with relationships like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were endlessly lucky to have someone who was that like empathetic and understanding.
A donor with good intentions. Who would have thought that would be a lovely thing to have? I mean, I do think though that I think that from, you know, speaking with Leland, who founded the Rainbow Bridge Clinic, it definitely seemed like that was how everything was set up. It was going to attract donors with good intentions. And it's certainly, and I'm so happy to hear though that your dad also was very child-centered in mind and gave you the autonomy and the power to decide what do y'all want. That was really nice, and I appreciate that a lot. So we're about to say goodbye. And anything else before we close off?
Thank you for having us on. Sorry for my brother's behavior. And
Nothing. Y'all are really, really great, and it again, like I get to hear. I am overwhelmed with sad stories like all the time. Like I am literally. It is nothing but bad back here. Is typically what I deal with as doing the advocacy I do. I can't tell you what it means to see happiness and to see genuine beauty and love coming from this. It gives me hope that the advocacy has a goal and an endpoint. And I can't tell you enough how much you all sharing your story it's so needed. We need hope. And I just cannot thank you all enough for providing that.
Well, and thank you for doing the legwork to help everyone get there.
Y'all are giving us at least something to shoot for. So thank you all for your time and thank you for sharing. And I wish you all and your family nothing but happiness on the upcoming wedding.
all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll
Thank
talk
you.
with our dad, and then maybe my moms can come on here with our dad. I feel like that would be an interesting combo to have on here. I would like to hear their perspectives on it. I haven't heard everything.
That would be chaos. That'd be so good.
I would love to because I'm like I just want to know like what how did you get from point A to point B, because my God, I don't hear it a lot and I really want to know. So no, I am 100% moms, dad, Everybody, please come on. I want to hear how all this magic happened, because y'all are just absolutely, you all impressed the crap out of me. Thank you for your time. And yeah, I'm so excited that we actually had like a happy episode. This was lovely. Have a lovely day, everybody.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you have not, please like, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a comment, do all of the things, press all of the buttons for the podcast. It really, really helps. And also, please don't forget that we filmed the entire episode. It is available for you on YouTube for all of my visual learners. Please go do something that makes you happy. Go take a walk. Go watch your favorite movie. Go have a drink with your friend. Go pet a dog with whomever's consent you need. Just go do something that is going to make you smile. Because my goodness, you deserve it today. I love you all. Hang in there. We can do this.